everyone, canning season is right around the corner, and so we wanted to break down what you're going to need so that you'll be confident when it comes. Let's get started. Okay, so a lot of people are really intimidated when it comes to canning, but I promise it's not that hard. Canning tends to be something that just didn't get passed down through the generations, and we were lucky enough to grow up in a family with our grandmother and our parents both canning, so we picked it up from a really early age. But I promise it's not as hard as it sounds. So let's dive into what we need to start canning. So first up, we have our pressure canner, which tends to be the scariest one for people that have not canned before, but it is really not as scary as it sounds. This is a Presto, and we can do 7 quarts, I believe, and 10 pints in this. And for pressure canning, you use meats, low acid vegetables, things like that. So your beef, your poultry, your seafood, all will be done in your pressure canner. Then we have our water bath canner, which I would say we probably use the most in the summer because all of our acidic vegetables can be done with this. And it is nowhere near as scary as using this. You just fill it with water, add jars, and then you'll follow the directions for whatever you're canning. And you can do fruits, juices, jellies, jams, chutneys, anything with vinegar, salsa, tomatoes, all in your water bath. Now my personal favorite is our steam canner because it tends to be a lot quicker. You don't have to wait for the water to start boiling. But everything you do in a boiling water canner, you can do over here in your steam canner. This is a Fruit Saver brand, and we got it for the first time last year, and I really love it. I think we did most of our stuff in this last year over this one. Really good for things like pickles or whatever that you don't want the high heat for a very long extended period of time. This does the same thing. It's still safe, but it works really well for preserving. You're also going to want a jar grabber. This is going to save your fingers so much. I can't tell you how many times we've misplaced ours, which is why we now have 3, and had to use our bare fingers to pull jars out of the oven where they were getting warm, and it just scorches your fingers. So this is a lifesaver. Have more than one. Another great thing to have on hand is this little magnet thing. Don't actually know what it's called, but it lifts your lids out of your water so that you can place them on top of your jars. You're also going to want a debubbler. Now, I can't find mine, of course, while we're doing this video, so I just grabbed a butter knife. This will work. Just be careful not to scratch your jars. And you're just going to slide it down and wiggle it back and forth to relieve any air that's caught in your jar between the layers of food. Another thing that can be handy is tongs. You can get all this stuff in a typical canning kit. You can pick it up usually at like Ace Hardware or anyone that cans or has canning goods, Amazon. I'll link all this stuff in the description down below. You're also going to want like hot pan holders. Lots of them, especially if you have a habit of misplacing where you sat them. Don't have that problem. Another really handy thing is trivets, so that you, especially if you're using a glass top stove, a lot of people tell you that you can't can on that. You can, you just have to be careful. You're going to want to lift your pans and not slide them across. And especially with pressure canning, you're going to want to remove it completely from the stove and place it on a trivet to cool. And don't take anything off of it. Don't remove your weight or anything like that. There's a little valve back here that will pop up when it's pressurized, and when it pops back down, that's when you can open it up. So you're just going to sit it on the trivet. Another really nice thing to have is a funnel. I can't tell you how many times that we've tried to do it without, and it just makes a huge mess. So save yourself some trouble and get yourself a nice canning funnel. Some other things that are really handy are old towels. You're going to sit your jars on it once they come out, and we usually use 2 towels folded in half just to protect your countertop and whatever. And you're just going to use your jar grabbers and pull it straight out of your pan and put it on the towel to cool and seal. And last but not least, you're going to need jars. So jars will come in quart, pint, half pint, and I think they now rolled out like a 1/4 of a pint, which are fun for like mushrooms or salves or whatever, not necessarily canning them. These are narrow, regular mouth quart jars. They'll also come, all of them will come in a wide mouth option, which is great if you're doing large things like green beans. We prefer these for like thinner sauces or stuff like that where it doesn't really matter, you can just pour it out. And that's about it. You, of course, depending on what you need, will need spoons or bowls for prep work, but this is the basic equipment for canning. So some of the things we like to keep on hand are Himalayan pink salt. We use it for everything from doing meats to our green beans. Anything but pickles, we end up using this. It's got lots of trace minerals in it that makes it really good for you. And then if you're doing fruit, you're going to want something to protect it. And you can use either a Fruit Fresh produce protector from Ball like this, or they have a citric acid. You can also use vitamin C in water. Same with these, you just put it in water, then add what you're working on until you are ready to start canning. And then we like to keep a pre-made pickling mix on hand. We also make our own pickling seasoning, so we'll do that in a whole nother video to show you how to do that. But this is really handy to have on hand. And this is from Ball also. They recommend that you use white vinegar for your canning. So we like to keep quite a bit of vinegar handy when we're canning. Next up is pectins. This is what you're going to use for your jellies, anything that really needs to be thickened. So you can go with a Ball classic real fruit pectin. Or you can kind of hedge your bet and go with a Sure-Jell. This kind of makes it so that you don't have to run the risk of your jelly or jam not setting. Really nice to have on hand if you're new to jelly making or you just struggle with getting the right temperature. You can also make your own homemade pectin. This is something that we made a couple of years ago from our unripe apples when they dropped in our orchard. So that's really handy and a great way to use up the unripe fruit. Another thing that we always have on hand is our pickling salt. Now this is what we're going to use for making fresh pickles in the summer or anything else that is going to be we're going to be pickling. This right here is what we're going to be using. Another thing that is really handy to have is pickling lime. So we use this in water glassing our eggs, which I'll link again the video down below so you can see how to do that. But this is also used to make your pickles extra crispy. So this is really great to have on hand if you like crispy pickles like I do. Some other great things are having a good stockpile of your canning lids and rings. They'll come in with a kit with both the lids and the rings, or you can get them like this with just the lids. Another great option is also reusable ones. These ones have a little bit of specific directions on how to use them to get them to work properly, so make sure you read that before you just jump in. These are also really handy to have on hand, but you cannot can with these, but these are great if you've got a leftover of something or you're doing something like a refrigerator pickle where it's just going to end up in your fridge. These can be screwed on there and it will save the rest of your lids. And that's about it. Oh, one more thing I forgot. A good apron is always really important to have, especially if you're working with something like a tomato, or grab an old t-shirt that you don't care about because they're really messy and you will ruin whatever you're wearing. So just do yourself a favor and start out with a good apron.